Hello everybody, welcome into my latest live broadcast. It's the 3rd of May, Tuesday, 2022. My name is Kerry Holzman, a 30-year veteran of PC technology as a technician, working in the industry as a paid professional since 1991. I hope to bring to this YouTube channel a different perspective than you're accustomed to seeing from most technology YouTube channels, which are made up mostly of hobbyists and enthusiasts that owe no accountability, reliability, or practicality to anybody. And as a result, well, they may be entertaining and somewhat educational. I prefer to show you what the real working technician's life is like. After more than 3 decades in the industry, I hope to present a unique perspective you won't find on most other tech YouTube channels. Today, one of the issues I'm running into has been something we've revisited in the past regarding rebuilding a system into a larger case. The system was purchased by our good friend and military veteran Marvin, and they put too much into a small case, they being the company he purchased the computer from. And I've been making attempts at trying to move the parts into a larger case to accommodate specifically a liquid cooler. And while many cases do promote the fact that they will hold a liquid cooler, in every case I've tried, the liquid cooler overlaps the top of the motherboard, and there are many connections at the top of a motherboard that normally, as a computer technician, I would open up the panel on a computer and make those connection changes quickly, in and out in minutes. Instead, because the cooler overlaps with the motherboard, the order in which you put it together is critical, or you'll have to take it back apart because you have misplaced or not seated properly a cable, or you're making an addition or a removal and you have to take the cooler out every time. Now, taking out the cooler isn't rocket science, but it's additional labor that clients don't want to pay for, and it's easily avoidable by simply getting a case that's just a little bit taller by about an inch. Most cases, computer cases that we have examined here on this channel that accommodate or claim to accommodate liquid coolers at the top of the chassis do so by overlapping the cooler on top of the motherboard. This not only can obstruct the view of your RGB, it can also, as I mentioned, make any repairs, upgrades, or additions, if you will, or removals of items that plug into the top of the computer case, including, or top of the motherboard, including if you have to change a power supply, right? It's not bad enough you got to undo all your cable management. Now you got to take the entire cooler out just to get to that 8-pin CPU power connector, and what should be a few minutes to accomplish is now going to take far, far longer than that. I was looking around trying to find what cases I have in inventory that might accommodate a liquid cooler properly. And by properly, I mean that the liquid cooler with the fans attached should still allow access to all of the connections across the top of the motherboard. And as I was looking around, I remembered I bought this Antec case specifically because I thought it looked different and I wanted to build in it. I haven't built in Antec cases in a long time, but Antec cases were almost exclusively the cases that I used back in the 1990s, and then they just kind of went. Well, this one appears to be very, very tall, and it looks like with the cooler installed at the top, with the radiator up there and the fans attached, it looks like the bottom of the motherboard will still be exposed. And if that's the case, there's no reason this motherboard has to be in this case. I can move this motherboard into literally any of the other cases we've attempted because we're using an air cooler on this. So I think what I'm going to do today is make another attempt at moving Marvin's old parts into a case that they'll fit in, and it's just that liquid radiator that's biting us on the butt. So I think that this one has the most potential rather than ordering a new case specifically for this task. I was very surprised the Corsair 4000D didn't cut it, the Be Quiet 500DX didn't cut it. I mean, I am running into some extraordinary frustration because what might be good enough for a home user is unacceptable in my line of work. And for the values and reputation that I hold so dearly to my business, I would not sell a system like that unless a customer specifically requested it. And in doing so, I would limit the warranty labor and have the customer accept the fact that they're going to have to cut the labor in half and pay for half of it, basically, from warranty because of the additional time their specific build will require. As a result, you typically get a customer who's upset. And so I'd rather tell the customer have somebody else build it, because there's not enough profit in computer building to, you know, to end up with somebody being upset. And my reputation is on the line, and if something doesn't meet my minimal requirements, in most cases, I'll simply thank them for the opportunity and suggest they have somebody else build it. And it's just about support, right? People will expect anything that breaks during the first year to be covered under warranty, especially for the money they're spending. But given that there's so little profit to be made on building a computer, there's no reason I would subject myself to that. So if you want to build one for yourself and deal with it, have at it. But as you can imagine, if you worked in a company where they had 100 or 1,000 computers like that deployed, you'd have to double the size of your IT department and double your expenses. So I see the world on a larger scale than most of the hobbyists and enthusiasts here on YouTube. And I hope that gives you some insight and a difference of perspective that there are more practical and pragmatic ways to look at things when we're looking at overall cost of ownership, and that includes the maintenance, repairability, and upgradability of a machine versus its cost and the time involved. So we're always looking to make something simple, make it easy, make it very affordable, good value, and make it easy to maintain and very inexpensive to maintain. So automatically, by adding a liquid cooler, we're adding a technology that will, on average, fail after about 3 or 4 years. This isn't a problem for most liquid cooler adopters because they're usually adopting the latest technology every couple of years. Those people who buy this kind of hardware generally get rid of it because it's obsolete to them. It's kind of like somebody, you might know somebody who buys a new car or leases a new car every 2 or 3 years. So for that mindset, for those people that have the money and always want the latest and greatest, they probably would never have a problem of maintenance or upgradability because they wouldn't own the machine long enough. But if something were to go wrong, such as the Silverstone liquid cooler that died in under 2 years, you got to deal with it. You don't have a choice. And that's just part of what comes along with liquid cooling. Personally, I think liquid cooling is a horrible idea. There are certain CPUs that benefit from it. However, you can always get away with an air cooler unless you're pushing the system at 100% of its resources, like I demonstrate here when I do my testing with Prime 95, which is a very unrealistic way of how most people use their computers. When they test cars, they might put them on a racetrack and floor them and see what their G-forces are and turning radius and whatnot. And in all likelihood, you would never experience that ever in your entire ownership of that car. You wouldn't use it in that environment or for that period of time with that much stress on the vehicle. And so these tests are mostly, in my opinion, a complete waste of time. There's something that enthusiasts and hobbyists just eat up like candy, and yet they're so impractical and unrealistic to the reality and how the computer will be used in real life that the information they provide is, for the most part, completely irrelevant. Everybody uses their computer differently, and while some users will use the computer that heavily, they make up very few users. Single-digit percentages of computer owners will actually use the computer to that level of performance. And those users will also spend the most money, require the most support, and be the most difficult people on average as a working technician. Those are the difficult people to please. They're very, very demanding people. And if you want to work for people like that, be my guest. But I will tell you, those customers get charged more. I charge those customers more because they put me through that. Most customers, the average ordinary, whether it's a business, corporate environment, or an end user, have very realistic expectations regarding how the computer should perform, whether or not it's noisy, how much they should spend. And so, more than 95% of the work I do, it's all very reasonable and common. And then for that 5%, I sort of decide if it's something I'm in the mood to take on. One of the benefits of being self-employed is I can turn away work that I feel is just going to lead to a bad place. And I would rather, and this I guess makes me a bad businessman, but I would rather tell the customer, I would rather decline the work than to just see dollar signs in that moment and think about how much money I could make, only to have a customer who was upset and bad-mouthing me and writing stuff about me and just being overall nasty because I cannot afford, or they are asking or expecting me to do something that costs more than the amount of money I made. And they will say it's warranty and I will say it's not. And I'm sort of playing a game of chess, right? I'm looking ahead to the future. So if I'm building a machine, or if I see a machine configuration requested by a customer that I think is going to be a nightmare to support, I will politely decline and suggest they look elsewhere for somebody else to build it. If they want to bring it to me for service when they realize what they bought is problematic and the company doesn't support them, I will gladly charge them a standard repair rate to repair it for them. There's more money for me to be made in that, along with a happier customer. Let them be pissed off at the company that built it and refuses to support it, and let me be the hero they write a check to. You understand the business model there? That's how I get happy customers. I know when to say no when it comes to certain build configurations that are likely going to end badly over time. Might be super happy at first, but the minute the first problem comes along, if it's a complex or time-consuming involvement to do something simple because half the machine has to come apart due to the design of the case and the demands of the customer, unless I'm getting paid for that work, I have no interest in doing it. That's time that I could be using helping another customer that is paying me. So when I build machines and you see the parts that I select, they're based on price, availability, performance, noise levels, and ease of installation and maintenance ongoing into the years ahead. It's hot outside. I just came in from outside and start sweating a little bit. I think what I'll do is go ahead and take this motherboard out. I want to give a few shouts out as we've had some generous contributors here donating to the channel. Super shout out and thank you to Peter Laycock, who before the show submitted a very generous contribution, an Amazon gift card, as well as Kelly Stewart. So Peter Laycock and Kelly Stewart, thank you guys so much for your ongoing and continual support. And then now just in the chat, I see we have a few contributions. And so thank you to the folks, Matt Power with a $5 contribution, and Geo Johnson with a $10 contribution. Geo says, my Carry-inspired desktop build is still running great after 3 years. Still rocket ship fast as well. Thank you, and Catherine. So Catherine Anna Hauserman, you'll find her in blue in most of our live chats. And she offers to put parts lists together for people around the world, and she charges nothing for it. So if you want to build your own machine, but you're not quite sure, you don't want to follow necessarily the parts that I'm building, you want to do something on your own, you can certainly reach out to Catherine Anna Hauserman. Here, you'll catch her live in the chat on most live videos, and you guys can work out how you can private message each other so she can find out what your budget is, what country you live in, what parts are available in your country, and what it is you want the computer to do. And nothing but compliments from people that Catherine has helped. And she's been doing this, we're going on 3, 4, 5 years now that she's been helping people for free. I'm surprised she's not burned out on it. But yeah, she continues to do so. If you want to take her up on that, just look for her here in the chat room or on Facebook. $20 just comes in from Madi Yoel. Thank you, Madi. Another very generous contributor here on the channel. And again, thank you to Geo Johnson and to Matt Power. Now, looking through the chat, let me just get caught up. Dennis Kralik says, I worked with Carrie on a build at Newegg years ago. Good dude. Hi, Dennis. I'm sorry I don't remember you, but I'll make you blue in here. Let's see. What do we have? There's Catherine Anna Hauserman. She is in the chat right now. Says hello. So if you'd like Catherine to make a parts list for you, reach out to her, and you guys can work out how you can private message each other on your own time and not have to, interfere with the chat. Hello to Rick Lakes and Duncany and Jonathan Fazani. Welcome in, guys. Fred Sunderman and Stealth Mode and Paul Garrett, Ed Schwartz, Patrick Manny, Troll McTrollington, Ada Rivera, Vern Mahoney, Terry Zanders, Ole Peterson. All right, guys. Well, I'm glad to see the gang's all here. Yeah, when I put this motherboard into this case, it was just random. I had the case. I wanted to use it. I was looking around. I had many boards to choose from. I can't tell you specifically why I picked this motherboard, but I did, and it doesn't have to be in this case. I think that Marvin's old parts should fit in here very well. It should be a nice fit. That's a 3900X CPU, which does run a bit hot. We've also got to put a graphics card in there, and I think this power supply needs to come out because, yeah, it's only 500 watts. We definitely want a 750 watt or better anytime we're installing a discrete graphics card. And most of the AMD processors do not have integrated graphics, and you will have to provide a graphics card for them. The opposite is true on Intel. However, if you're a gamer, you wouldn't want to use the integrated graphics anyway. That being said, most of my customers are not gamers, and most of my customers have no interest in RGB or liquid cooling. And when Marvin's old computer is rebuilt, we'll list it up for sale, or I don't know, we'll figure out something to do with it. It's also got that X570 chipset fan that's failing. I saw that one coming as soon as they introduced the first X570 build here on the channel years ago, and I saw that chipset fan. I said, mark my words, those fans are going to go out, and when they do, good luck finding them. Well, I think I found it. It looks like when I Google the model number, I'm getting CPU cooling fans as well as chipset fans. And then there's different connectors. There's 2-pin connectors, 4-pin connectors, and there should be a $4 fan, and for me it was $20. I should get it in the mail next week, and for now I'll just go ahead and build into this case, and when it comes, when this chipset fan comes in, I'll demonstrate how to replace it. But it's just, honestly, that motherboard might be under warranty, and we might be able to get a chipset fan free from ASUS, but I can't be bothered, to be honest. I'd rather just spend the $20. But if you got a motherboard like what I recommend, they don't have chipset fans, and they haven't had chipset fans for about 15 years. Why AMD went backwards? AMD stays backwards with pins on the bottom of the CPU. When you're taking off your heatsink, it often rips the CPU right out of the socket. Intel, I think, is far more advanced with the pins being in the socket. I think it's a much smarter design. You can rip a heatsink off a modern Intel CPU, and there's no way that CPU can ever come out. And AMD kind of agrees. They, on their super high-end chips like Threadripper, those also have that landing base design where the pins are in the socket. So AMD knows, but I think it's a higher profit margin for them to sell it using a 1990s chip design, and putting a CPU fan on a chipset is a 1990s design as well. And I think as long as AMD stays with those older, decades-old, long obsolete designs, it doesn't seem to hold back the AMD fanboys from ranting and raving about how amazing they are. But to each their own. If that's what you want to do, is blindly support some multi-billion-dollar company that doesn't care about you, have at it. You know, I'm interested in staying in business, and if AMD offers me the best value, or if Intel offers me the best value, that's what I'm going to offer to my customers. I don't care which one it is, as long as it's a good value. So for right now, I find personally the state of CPUs, I think Intel has been in the lead for quite some time. AMD Athlon XP chips were far superior than the Intel chips at that time, and I was building exclusively AMD XP processors for a couple of years. And then Intel finally introduced the Core Duo processor, or Core 2 Duo, and AMD's just been lagging behind ever since. As far as I'm concerned, they're still behind in their technology. And as much as you want to be a fanboy and you want to hold true to your beliefs, I hold true to mine. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have. I'm not looking, rather, for your approval. I don't care. I have a business to run, and whether or not I can pay my bills, unless you're willing to step in and pay the bills, I really don't care. The bottom line is I've been doing this over 30 years, and if you want to dismiss my experience for your fanboyism, you're entirely free to do that. It makes no difference in my world. But I have a responsibility to my customers, I have a responsibility to my family, and I have a responsibility to my business to make sure all of these things stay operational week after week, month after month. And that means my expenses cannot exceed my income, or I will go out of business. And so if I see any company that is costing me money or has the potential to result in me being in a negative financial situation, I'm going to let you know about it. I don't really have any feelings about it. I don't feel one way or the other about Intel or AMD. They were all founded essentially by the same people that came out of the same company. They're different people, but they all came out of the same company, and a couple of them broke off and founded AMD, and a couple of them broke off and founded Intel. I mean, they're all at the core of it the same set of engineers that started up together. So in many ways, they're very, very similar in their technology and their processes. However, we find that in technology, a company can lead for a while and then fall behind. And then the company that was behind can lead for a while, and this just goes back and forth and back and forth. So I would never be blindly loyal to any company. I have a customer who is blindly loyal to Cadillac. He will only buy Cadillac automobiles. Seems weird to me, because Cadillac had a couple of stinkers, but that doesn't shake his loyalty. Cadillac doesn't know who he is. Cadillac doesn't write him a letter or send him a birthday card, but he just feels loyalty is important. I should say that the amount of money that he made, he could afford to buy a new Cadillac every year if he bought a stinker. I don't make that kind of money, so I have to be much more cautious with the investments I make. And if I found a Cadillac I wanted, I wouldn't hesitate to buy it. But I wouldn't blindly stay loyal to any corporation unless there was the company had a financial incentive for me to do that. And I would hope that's the normal way people think. But please be aware that there are people on the internet that exercise a cult-like mentality to large multi-million-dollar and billion-dollar corporations. And just recognize it. Understand where the source of the information is coming from. If you're talking to somebody in the industry with years and years of experience versus an enthusiastic end user. That's all. Okay, so I guess I'm going to just tear this down. There's, with as busy as I am, there's nothing I hate worse than having to undo or redo work I've already done. So I'm kind of gritting my teeth, knowing I've got to take this apart. But I think I had a potential buyer for this, which is why it got built, and then that buyer backed out. And as it turns out, that's going to be for the best. I think if this cooler fits in here, it'll be a blessing in disguise. Robert Katniak contributes €5. He says, hello from Slovenia. Nice show. Hey, Robert, thank you so much for your continued support, and hello to everybody in Slovenia. Gio wants to know if the chipset really requires that cooling fan. No, they just put it on there for fun. They went through the engineering and design phase as well as the added expense and factory tooling just because they thought it looked cool. Of course it's required. It's a bizarre question. Sinister0021 with a $10 contribution said, we've talked before on the live chat. Right when Ryzen was first released, you said before you would use, it would be proven to work reliably. I told you all devoted fanboys need their own country. We can all live together in peace. It's just unfortunate when people try to tell other people what to do or what to think. I will share with you my experiences and what I think, and sometimes people hear that, but they don't really listen. So if I say, here's how to apply thermal compound, they think that I'm telling them this is the only way to apply thermal compound and you must listen to me and obey. But that's not what I said. But if I say this is how I apply thermal compound, I'll still have people telling me I'm doing it wrong when they hold no accountability, liability, or responsibility to the work that I'm doing or to the customers that I'm building for, and don't understand or comprehend the cost of support, nor do they have anything to gain, nor do they have anything to lose by me doing it my way. I'm just simply sharing my experience with them. And if they think they're smarter than me, I just wonder why they're watching the video. I didn't ask them to watch it. They didn't pay anything to watch it, so they can't feel wronged. And I didn't force them. I didn't, put a gun to their head and tape their eyelids open and say, watch my video. So these people are voluntarily subjecting themselves to something they don't like. It's their own idea, and then they're complaining to me about it, which is a very, very strange behavior that seems to exist in times today. This would not have happened in the 1980s. Probably wouldn't have happened in the 1990s. People would have said, if you don't like it, it's like food. It's like you're eating something you don't like, something you didn't pay for, and something that wasn't made for you, right? I don't know why people think I make videos for them specifically, but if I don't mention that the video is made for somebody, it would be wrong for you to assume that the video doesn't meet your requirements because it never was supposed to meet your requirements because it wasn't made for you. The people who pay for the content, their thoughts matter to me, but the people who don't pay for the content, they don't bring any value at all. I know they think their subscription is worth something, but it really is not. To me, it's the other way around. If you want a free education and you want somebody with 30 years of experience to share their information with you for free, then you subscribe so you can learn. But if you don't want to learn, then unsubscribe. It honestly makes no difference in how much I am paid. So people have it completely backwards. They think that their subscription is somehow a gift to me. It is not a gift. It's a burden. And while I'm happy to take the burden on in order for the benefit of the community, I have no interest in dealing with people who give nothing, take everything, and then complain about it and act as though them clicking the subscribe button was somehow beneficial to me financially. It is not. And let me be very, very, very clear. YouTube does not pay me based on how many subscribers I have. Most of my views on my videos, 80% of my views come from non-subscribers. So if you take 1/5 of the amount of money that YouTube pays me, it wouldn't even be enough for me to buy groceries for the week for an entire month's worth of YouTube salary. So you can understand how offended I get when people seem to think their nothing is worth something. So please understand that when you're on this side of the camera, you deal with some stuff that, well, I certainly never expected. I figured people would say thank you or they'd go away. But some people feel as though they've been wronged and they're social justice warriors determined to shut my channel down. And there's a serious mental health crisis in this world when that's a common practice. It happens more often than it should. And in some cases, I've had to get the police involved. So in any event, I want to continue on sharing my knowledge and experience for the people who value it. And for those who don't, there's plenty of other YouTube content for you to select. And, look, if you're so good at it, why don't you make a video? And you all have YouTube, so you can do what I'm doing and show me how it's done. I'd love to see it. And it might be good for you to have that experience. Now, with that said, I guess I can start getting some work done. Just looking one more time here in the chat to see what I've missed. Copycat says, Carrie, I remember you working on computers when you were very young in your teens. Yeah, well, I started working on computers. They weren't IBM compatible computers, but the TRS-80 Model 1 was the first computer that I owned. Saved my paper route money to buy it. It was $450 in 1980s money, which is probably around $1,200 in today's money. It was a lot of money, and it was used. And after that, I got an Atari 400, and then an Atari 800 XL, 1200 XL. I was with the Ataris for a number of years, and then got my very first IBM compatible PC for around $1,200 with a 40 meg hard drive. It was a 286-12 that would boost to 16 with the turbo button. I think it was 4 megs of RAM, and it included a black and white monitor, or it might have been green screen or amber, I can't remember. Had a 56K modem in it, and you set the monitor on top of the computer. It was a desktop computer. And that was a bargain because a friend of mine built it for me. So for the monitor, the keyboard, the mouse, the computer, the modem, the motherboard, the processor, the RAM, the storage, it was $1,200. It was a really good deal. And shortly thereafter, I got my first real job as a professional computer technician in 1991, working for an AutoCAD computer creator. Basically, they made computers designed for AutoCAD designers. They advertised in Computer Shopper. They shipped nationwide. It was called TriStar Computer Corporation, located in Chandler, Arizona. After that, I worked at Naga Systems, another boutique system builder specializing in AutoCAD-based, computers designed to use AutoCAD. This would have been the 486 time when we were dealing with SX and DX processors and explaining what the difference was and what a mathematical processor is. And these were big tower computers with steel, not aluminum, big steel cases. And then from there, moved on into companies like Intel, the two power companies here in Arizona, SRP and APS, as well as the Department of Environmental Quality. Worked for a while for the school district, and I say that as if it's one, but a school district here in Phoenix. And where else have I worked? I worked at Charles Schwab for a short time. I didn't care for that work, so I didn't stay there very long. And I worked at Best Buy for a while. I did computer repair work at Best Buy before there was such a thing. It was kind of funny in the interviewing process. They were opening the very first Best Buy in Phoenix, somewhere around the mid-90s, I want to say. Might have been early, maybe 93. 92, 93? Had to be 93. Anyway, I filled out the application as a computer technician, and they called me in for an interview. And one of the questions they asked is, they said, why, you are aware that we didn't put an ad in for computer tech for this new store opening? I said, yeah. And they said, so why did you apply for a computer tech position? I said, well, Best Buy is supposed to be like Circuit City, right? You guys are going to sell electronics, including computers. And if you're going to sell computers, you're going to need to support them. Customers are going to need repairs and upgrades. So I assume you're going to need a computer tech. And it was an interview with multiple people at the same time. And they kind of looked at each other and smiled. And they're like, what's your turnaround time? I said, if somebody brings a computer in for repair, I can have it turned around in 24 hours. And they said, yeah. Well, this is a big flagship store. This is the main Best Buy store that we're opening in Phoenix. It's going to be the biggest of all the stores. And with that in mind, knowing how many more customers this store is going to see on a regular basis, what would you estimate your turnaround time to be? I said, it'll be 24 hours with some exceptions, but overall 24 hours. They just laughed, like, I just wasn't getting it. I said, okay. And I got the job, and my turnaround time was 24 hours. But regardless of that, there's a lot of things that I say, not to boast, but just because I'm very proud of them. There's nothing I like more than people doubting me and underestimating me. I will pat myself on the back because so few people are willing to do it. And I hope to share my enthusiasm and success with you as an inspiration that you too can do what you set your mind to, despite all the negativity coming from people who were challenging or in some form of competition. A lot of the world's in competition, and it's interesting when you start winning the competition, how angry and mean people will get, and the attacks go up. But luckily, if you achieve enough success, they just bounce off you like a gnat. So it's funny that they even make an attempt. It's sort of like you're on the freeway, let's say, and you see a little Kia Soul next to a Corvette, and the Kia Soul wants to race. Seriously? Why bother? So that's what it's like. And hopefully, when you share your success with people because you're excited and you want them to feel happy for you, you don't encounter people going, oh, you've got an ego, oh, you're boastful. It's not it at all. I was hoping you'd be happy for me, but now you've shown your true personality, and I'll remember that the next time you have something you're proud of. So hopefully you have friends close enough to you that understand the difference between being boastful and wanting to share your challenge and success so somebody can say, great job, I always believed in you, I knew you could do it. Those people are few and far between, I have found, in real life. And I'll tell you what, if you get any people in your life like that, hold on to them, because they're very rare people to encounter. And when you're talking with a friend who is sharing their joy of success, hey, I just bought this new car, it's their dream car. They don't want to hear you tell them what a crappy car it is or how they're boasting of their wealth. They want you to say, wow, congratulations. Is that so hard to do? But this is a society we live in. I'm not going to change it, but I can make you aware what to expect and the proper, what I consider to be the proper way to respond to it, which is if you encounter those people in your life, get them out of your life as soon as possible. The ones that won't support you only hold you down. They're anchors to your success. My own parents did that to me, and so I distanced myself from them for that reason. Once I distanced myself far enough where I wasn't constantly bombarded with negativity and being told what I couldn't do or what I was capable of, only then did I start becoming successful far more than my parents ever suspected. Remember, when I was doing this computer stuff in the 80s, my parents considered it a complete waste of time and wanted me to either join the military or figure out what I was going to do for a living rather than playing games all day. Computers weren't just games for me, and as you can see, it's led into a lifetime of a career as well as this opportunity to share my knowledge and experience to the world on YouTube. Something my parents couldn't fathom in their own imagination in the era that they grew up in, and wanted something more traditional. Like, they would have been happy if I became an auto mechanic. And, that's fine. Nothing wrong with being an auto mechanic, but most people don't become rich in that career field. So there's certainly more potential that I have for financial gain, and there's more variety in the work that I'm doing. And as car repair has changed to become more computers, even mechanics now have to be computer technicians at a certain level. Some mechanics don't like that. Some mechanics, especially the older mechanics, generally have the feeling that this isn't what I signed up for. I'm not working on any Teslas. I'm not working on electric cars. And yet electric cars are all coming. I think the US government has a mandate that every car manufacturer has to have electric cars by 2025 or something. And they want to completely get rid of the gas engine. And now that Tesla's led the way, Ford's been very successful with the Mach-E Mustang. Of course, Toyota Prius, which is the hybrid, has been very successful for over a decade. The Nissan Leaf, not so much. And BMW's foray into electric cars hasn't worked out well for them yet. However, really excited about the new Hummer electric vehicle, which looks amazing. And Ford is going to go all electric. And Ford has invested heavily into a Tesla rival called Rivian. And it'll be interesting to see what offerings come from all the manufacturers, including companies that have said that electric would never equal the performance of a gas motor, like Porsche. And now they themselves are offering all electric versions. And companies that make supercars like Ferrari and Lamborghini are also of that mindset that you just can't get the power with electric. They're going to have to come on board. The governments are requiring it. And those of you that are mechanics and work on those cars are going to have to become electricians. And so life continues to change as we evolve. People like progress, but people hate change. And here we are. When I got started, we didn't do RGB. We didn't do cable management beyond just getting the cables out of the way for airflow and ease of accessing the machine. We did do overclocking back in the day, but we were seeing 100 and 200% performance gains, even upwards of 300% on like a Celeron 300 back in the day. Today's gains of 12 to 15% are simply pitiful, almost unnoticeable by most end users, and extraordinarily expensive to get those gains. But I never signed up to be an overclocker. I never signed up to do RGB. I never signed up to do liquid cooling, but I don't have much choice in some cases because the career changes. So you can switch careers or you can be flexible and adapt your skills. I do a little bit of it, a little bit of that stuff, but I try to avoid it as much as possible. It's just extraordinarily time consuming. And the more work I do for businesses, the more money I make, and businesses don't want any of that stuff anyway. So I have found a way, I found a path through all that nonsense. And I'm sure it's temporary. This RGB stuff, I think, is going to just fat out. And I think it's going to look embarrassing in 10 years. You're going to show somebody a build you did that was a lot of money with a lot of fancy RGB and liquid cooling. And they're going to look at you like, what were you thinking? It's like showing off hubcaps on your lawnmower. But to each his own. It's your money, it's your machine, and if you want to do the work, have at it. The work I want to do is take this motherboard out and put that other board in here and see if we can make all that fit. Craig Lilly says, after watching the Terminator movie series, do we really want computer-driven cars? Well, you know, it's science fiction. It's not a documentary. I've seen a lot of Friday the 13th movies. Do I really want a cabin in the woods? I mean, you know, if you're basing your life based on complete fiction, well, I'm not quite sure that that's an ideal way to guide yourself through life. I will say that Elon Musk has mentioned any AI they do will be easily overridden, including he had a Tesla robot and said that the robot could be easily overpowered if necessary, and was designed that way. Despite all the other safeguards, if the robot were to go crazy, and that's all that imaginative fiction going through people's heads, that the robot would not simply have the strength to fight off if somebody wanted to wrestle it to the ground, let's say. It would be like taking down a child. And you have to understand that when script writers in Hollywood write scripts, they're not usually Harvard or Ivory College level educated people. A lot of times script writers get the job based on who they know. And if you've ever followed any movie at all that is fiction, you will find flaws in the logic or in how the technology works, because the writers have no idea in most cases how technology works. And they very rarely consult an expert. Sometimes they do, but you end up with just ridiculous examples of technology, and it's written by people who don't really understand, and many times don't really understand the subject matter they're writing about, because they might write 3-4 scripts a year on various subject matter, from law to medical to whodunit, thrillers and action and sci-fi and everything in between that'll make them a buck. So yeah, bear that in mind. Fiction is fiction for a reason. And if you want to base real life decisions, I hope you do that based on real life examples. Let me get a cold Gatorade and I can start taking this apart. Hope everybody's having a good Tuesday. I got 4 computers out yesterday. That made me happy. 2 veterans' computers were shipped. I got Clinton's laptop returned to him, and I got my sister's computer with the new cooler in it delivered to her. And feels good because I think I'm down to like 26 machines. I was at like 52 at the beginning of the year. So I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And once I get these machines out of here, I'd like to do more product reviews and interviews. And there's a bunch of other how-to videos I'd like to make and get away from all the building. I made a huge mistake when I bought as many parts as I did for computer building, and the thought being that it would be content. The problem is I have no shortage of content, and adding all this other content cost me a lot of money for these parts. And a lot of the computers I'm now selling at a loss, a financial loss, just to get them out of my way. That was a dumb, very dumb business decision. I also thought YouTube would continue to grow, and as YouTube would grow, it would pay me more. But what I didn't anticipate is that YouTube would grow, but they would pay me less. I didn't see that one coming. So as a result, I've invested a lot of money into cases, motherboards, CPUs, solid-state drives, et cetera, coolers. And I don't sell parts. I don't want to get into warrantying. I don't want somebody buying a motherboard, screwing it up, and then telling me I sold them a bad board. I'll let Amazon and Newegg deal with people like that. I will sell entire systems. I do not sell parts. I never wanted to get into that business for those reasons, along with all the scammers that will take a bad part, put it in the box that the new part came in, and then say you sold it to them. Yeah, so anyway, I have no choice but to just build these systems and sell them, and in some cases give them away. So this machine here came, the one we're putting in, came from Marvin's old computer. We built a brand new machine for Marvin, and many thanks to the community for making that possible. And Marvin doesn't want these parts back. So we'll figure out something to do with these parts, but I've got a significant investment in a case, power supply, and a new cooler. Actually, Be Quiet sent us the cooler for free. And then of course my labor to rebuild it. So then it's about $100, $125 to ship it, depending on the size of the computer and how far it's being shipped. So even giving them away ends up costing me even more than it already cost me. So if you wonder why I don't give out more, it's simply because people aren't paying for the content. I think the solution may be to do an optional members only section of this channel for the live broadcast, so I don't get, like today it's been fine, and in fact this week it's been fine with people not being disruptive. We've had a couple of bots, but you guys are quick to shut them down, and I appreciate that. But if people are paying a membership fee, I think the computer giveaways are going to go to those people during the live broadcast. I think that's going to be the way to do it. And of course, I can only ship hardware within the United States. I cannot ship outside of the United States. So even if you're a member, you still may not be eligible to win if you're in another country. But you could win software or something. And I want to make sure that I give back to the people who give to me. And for everybody else who doesn't give for whatever reason, I'm still giving them the content. I'm still giving them and sharing with them my experience for free. And for them to expect or demand any more is unfair to me. So just batting some ideas around in my head. We'll see how it plays out. I don't think I would do anything before June, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But the main concept is that all the live videos will be for members only, and once the live videos are done, then anybody can watch them, regardless of membership. But to interact with me or to be eligible for a prize, I want to make sure the people who give to me are the people I give back to, and the people who take from me should just say thank you. Just common courtesy, I think, isn't it? Am I missing something? All right. What have I missed in the chat? Copycat contributes $5. Thank you, Copycat. Gunnar Glenn with $5 and Sinister0021 with another $5. Sinister says, I am 51 years old, started on a Commodore PET in high school. So did I. High school, we had a Commodore PET. I would stay after school to learn basic assembly. I'd also stay after school to avoid getting bullied. I would run away from school. I would try and get out 5 minutes before the bell rang so I could get a head start so the bullies couldn't find me. By the time the bullies got out of class, I was already halfway home. I ran from the bullies for a number of years for fear of my life. I thought if they caught me, they were going to kill me. I don't mean that like, oh, my mom's going to kill me. No, I literally thought they were going to beat me until my last breath. So when I ran like Forrest Gump. After a while, I got tired of running and started working out and decided I was going to fight back. And that next school year, after I had worked out all summer long and put on a few pounds and muscle, the bullying just stopped. I have no explanation for it. It just, apparently the way you carry yourself makes you a target. If I only could learn how to carry myself in the way that bullies were drawn to, only to surprise them, that would have been a wonderful dream. So I could get that rage out, get that revenge. It's a shame we can't isolate bullies away from other people and sort of put the bullies together the way that we put prisoners together in jail. I wish we could put all bullies together and let them sort it out amongst themselves, and the rest of us who show consideration and respect could live peacefully without the interference of the bullies. But we're just not that evolved as a species, and unfortunately those of us who have evolved further than the bullies have no choice but to tolerate their lack of evolution. They'll get there in time, but we all don't evolve the same, unfortunately. All right. Abdul Azim Patel with $7.77 says, thank you, I bought Acronis with the discount. Right on, Abdul, it's a great deal. Again, we've got a special promotion happening with Acronis right now. Acronis is a backup imaging and cloning software. It is only subscription. That's it. That's the way all software is going. Even cars now are starting to offer subscriptions on the services in the car. Well, there's still some holdouts in software that will let you buy a perpetual license. For the most part, they're sort of the last hangers on. You've been paying subscriptions for a lot of things in your life, whether it's your internet access itself, your phone service, your antivirus or anti-malware software. Microsoft Office will be moving to a subscription only. I think after Office 2021, there will be no more perpetual licenses, if the rumors are true. Adobe products are all subscription only now. There is no other option other than to go to a different software vendor, even though nobody's really got a product that truly competes with Adobe, in my opinion. And Microsoft considers Windows a socket to subscriptions, so that's why Microsoft is basically giving away Windows and free upgrades, because without the Windows operating system, all of the services they want you to subscribe to, you can't without that socket to connect you to those services. So that's why you're going to see these Windows licenses really cheap that we're also offering, like CDK deals. And all the links for the discount for Acronis and Windows licenses and Office licenses are all in the video notes below this video. And by using the links in my video and the coupon codes, it shows these sponsors the power of our community. Because if they don't get much response in sales, they likely won't sponsor us again, and who could blame them? So I only choose sponsors that I use myself, that I recommend myself, and that offer my viewers a very special discount for a limited time and have a money-back guarantee. So in the situation with Acronis, you can download a free trial and use it for 30 days before you decide. But bear in mind, the coupon code expires May the 15th, so we've only got about 12 days left if you want to take advantage of taking 40% off an Acronis product. The Windows and Office product keys, I'm going to keep that deal at least till November, and hopefully beyond that. Right now, we still go month to month, but I'm sure, I have good feelings that we can make it to November. That'll be a full 12 months, and I'm hopeful that we can continue that in perpetuity, so long as they're getting sales and we're getting engagement from you guys to them, then they want to keep sponsoring us. So I understand you don't need to buy a license very often. The licenses they sell are good for the life of the motherboard. They tie to the motherboard. But some people have multiple computers, so you want to help out a friend. There's no reason to pirate software anymore and risk viruses and breaking the law when these keys are so affordable now and so easy to obtain. Piracy is messy. So in any event, thank you for mentioning that. I'm very happy with the sponsors we have. RoboForm is the final sponsor. We have 30% off RoboForm. All the links, again, in the video notes below this video. Lucas Dury contributes $10. Says, good afternoon. Thank you for your videos. You've inspired me to start building and repairing computers. Have you ever run into Computrace, and is there a practical way to remove or disable it? The Computrace software I demonstrated on the laptop video last week, there's no reason to disable it. I can't imagine why you would want to, but the company that makes it is called Absolute Software. When you go into the BIOS of a computer, and it's these business machines, off-lease business machines have this Computrace in the BIOS so they can locate stolen computers. If you go in the BIOS and you go to the Computrace area of the BIOS, it's got a phone number. What do you think that phone number is for, Lucas? Have you tried calling it? If you call that number and ask them that question, what they can do is have you read the serial number, and I think you need to send them a receipt, proof of ownership, that it's not stolen. And what they do is they send a signal out over the internet that within a couple of days, the machine, in its natural course of you using it, will eventually get the signal from the Computrace server, and it will disable itself. But they control it at their end. On the other hand, you can just ignore it. Why do you want to remove it? Do you think it's causing harm? It doesn't really matter. The only place that you should see it is in the BIOS. It shouldn't be anywhere else. And I can't imagine why you would bother, to be honest. I don't understand what your motive is. If you want to waste time as a computer technician to do work that doesn't need to be done, that serves no purpose, I don't think you're going to have a very successful career, and you might want to rethink your business strategy. But I appreciate your contribution, but I really, really don't think you thought this one through, or you don't understand what it is you're asking to remove. The Computrace on the laptop that we just displayed last week, I didn't disable it. Why would I bother? It's not hurting anything, and there's no benefit to disabling it. Unless you can tell me otherwise, it's a complete waste of time to do anything other than ignore it. But you can call the phone number if you insist, if you stubbornly want that off, and you can talk to them, and they can assist you with that. All right? Okay. Let me start by taking everything apart here. So I'm going to take the power supply out of here first and foremost. So we'll get that cable off, and this cable up here is going to be removed. And those should be the only two power supply cables we have in use here. And then I will step around and we'll take this power supply out. I really like these EVGA 500 watt power supplies because you pick them up, typically they're about $35, $40. I've had one bad one out of, I'd have to look at my Amazon history, but I think I've got somewhere around 70 or 80 of these in the field. Probably more, probably closer to 100. So having one bad one out of 100, you know, that keeps my customers happy, that keeps me profitable, and and I'm going to keep buying them. I've used other power supplies that have also been trouble-free, but I don't use enough of them like I have of these to establish whether or not I want the success of my business or my reputation weighed heavily on that. So I will, if I'm happy with the price and I'm happy with the installation of the power supply, I might use it again and then again and again, but I wait a little bit of time. I don't just build 40 machines with a power supply I've never used before, because if those power supplies have a high failure rate, then I'm going to have a high failure rate, and my customers are going to see that as my failure, and it's my responsibility then to replace those power supplies at my expense of time and labor. As a result, because I'm held accountable and responsible for the machines I build, I'm very, very particular over which components I use. Bob R, with a $20 contribution, says, I just bought 2 keys for Windows and Office 2019 from VIP CDK deals with no issues. Thank you. Everything that I offer on the channel for sponsorship has a money-back guarantee. There are limitations to that. You have 30 days. If you wait after 30 days from the date of your receipt, you're on your own. But within those first 30 days, if there's any problem, you need customer service, they will be resolved, and you don't have to gamble. You don't have to go to eBay or some other sketchy site and buy some sketchy Windows key. You don't have to hope for the best. These keys do work. They're guaranteed to work. They have customer support. The Acronis software is amazing backup and cloning software. I've demonstrated it years and years and years on this channel. And of course, RoboForm I've been using for the last 15 plus years, and I use it every single day. These are products I use myself, so I just want to emphasize, if you go to other YouTube channels that promote Windows keys, ask the content creators if there's a problem with the Windows key, will they help you? In every YouTube channel I have ever seen, they say no. We have nothing to do with the Windows keys other than they pay us and we promote them. If you have any problems, you go to them. Well, the difference between me and them is I'm not a hobbyist. I couldn't do that to my customers. So if you buy a key from CDK Deals and you have a problem, then you reach out to CDK Deals for help. And if CDK Deals fails to help you, then you reach out to me with a copy of your receipt and explain to me what the problem is, and I'll get it solved. Guaranteed every time. But it's got to be within 30 days of the receipt. But I'm not aware of a single YouTube content creator that will stand behind their sponsors. I stand behind Acronis 100%. I stand behind CDK Deals 100%. And I stand behind RoboForm 100%. And if you have any problem with any of these companies in any way, the first thing you need to do is reach out to the company and give them an opportunity to address it and make it right. Then, if they don't make it right, and only then, reach out to me with a copy of your receipt and the problem, and I will get it solved for you. Again, not aware of any other YouTube content creator that does that. So if you have a choice on which content creator you want to support, what's that content creator going to do for you for peace of mind? And make your decision. That's what I would do. All right, let me get this power supply set aside, and we'll get this motherboard out of here next. Got an RGB fan controller there. Oh joy. Got our USB 3 connector. Push that out the back. Our front port umbilicals, including our front port audio connector and our rear case fan. So that's disconnecting everything. And now I should simply be able to remove the motherboard. I take the bottom screws out first because I've got this computer upright for you to see it. I would never work on a computer like this at a customer location. I would always lay the computer flat. I do try whenever possible to work on the computer vertically from this side so you can see what I'm doing, but this is not how I would work on it in the real world because the motherboard can fall out, and this is working harder, but you normally wouldn't have a camera and an audience of hundreds of people watching you live when you're working on a customer's computer. I do, so when possible, I do things in a way that's much more difficult just to get that camera angle. And sometimes I don't. There's times when I'm like, sorry guys, I'm not going to be able to show you this because it's not possible or the risk is too great and I don't want to risk damaging the customer's equipment. Then I'll have to pay for it. Not you, but me. And so for me to do something like that and risk it is just bad business. But times like this where I can display it, I certainly prefer to show you so you can see what to expect, what the process is. But I would hope when you're doing this yourself, you'll lay the case flat so that gravity won't have it fall on you, potentially damage anything. So because it's vertical, the first thing that's going to come out is the top. So we want to take the top screws out last. If we've got the top and the middle screws out and we're working our way down, the board can start to tilt as you're taking the screws out, but since the screws are still holding it in, if there's enough weight on it, it could fall and crack. As a result, I save the top screws for last. And before I remove the last screw, you'll see I'm going to hold it by the heatsink to control the removal of the board so that I don't let gravity decide, I decide. Once again, you'll see I've taken out the sides, the screws that hold the sides in first. So we're only being held in by one screw at this point right here in the middle. And that's again so gravity, there's nothing gravity can do from either side to create enough inertia to have the board fall forward and damage or crack it. Once I remove this last screw, I'm going to support the board. You'll see the board's already starting to fall. Once again, you would normally have the case laying flat. You wouldn't have to deal with this issue. As a content creator, I have some problems because of the camera where I do some work in a way that is not ideal or beneficial as far as being optimal. But we can take that board out and you'll see the way I'm holding the board. I don't have to wear an anti-static strap because I'm not touching any of the electrical components. I'm simply touching the plastic covers, the edge of the motherboard, or the heatsink itself where static discharge is harmless, if there is any to begin with. Now, I also have to remember to take the I/O shield out because each I/O shield is uniquely designed for each make and model of motherboard. They're not interchangeable. So if you forget that, well, it's very ugly and unprofessional to leave the I/O shield off. I do prefer when motherboards have the I/O shield built in. It's one less thing you got to worry about, and it always fits right. But let me go ahead and move this into the other room because it's a kind of an expensive setup and I want to put it away where no harm can come to it. I have a fairly small workbench that I'm working with. Normally in a business environment, I have a bench that's far, far larger so I can work on multiple projects at the same time. All those companies I told you I worked for, huge workbenches with multiple projects happening simultaneously because when you're working on a client's computer, your employer's not going to sit there where you're twiddling your thumbs waiting for an antivirus scan to complete, or while you're doing a backup or a copy of data or doing Windows updates. You keep working. So while you've got a computer running a process, you'll start working on the next computer. So my benches typically surrounded me, so I'd have a bench on my left, a bench straight ahead, and a bench on my right. At Best Buy, I had a customer counter, and then behind me I had like a long bench and then a shorter bench this way. And then we had a back room with a long bench that went the entire length of the room for anything we wanted to work out of customer site. Matt Power says, Kerry, I bought Uncle Kerry's optimizer. My backup copy got corrupt. Do I have to rebuy it? Matt, you didn't buy the optimizer from me, so I don't know why you're asking me that question. It'd be like you asking me if you bought something from Amazon using my link. Like, I didn't sell that to you. D7X Tech is the company you purchased from, and those are the people you need to reach out to. I collaborated with D7X Tech because I needed a tool, but I didn't have the skills to design it myself. They have the skills, but they didn't know what I needed, right? So they designed it, and they collect the money on it, and they distribute it. It wasn't even a tool that I was going to sell. It was just a tool I was paying for my business. And when I demonstrated its use on some live videos, people wanted to buy it. But I don't have the means by which to collect money and send product, nor would I have a database large enough to go back and, you know, be able to determine who bought what and when, and these kinds of requests. It's a $5 tool, isn't it? Like $5, what is it, $8? So I would just hope you'd support the channel and buy it again. But if it really means that much to you, to not spend the $5 or $8 or whatever it is, reach out to the folks at D7X Tech and find out what they say, because they're probably going to have to ask you for a copy of your receipt so they can verify that you purchased it. I don't know what their policies are, if there's a time period involved. I really don't know. I mean, if you went to the grocery store and you bought a loaf of bread and lost it on your way home, you think you're going to go to the grocery store and say, hey, I lost a loaf of bread that I bought here. Can you give me another one? I don't know how reasonable that question is. However, it's not my decision to make. The folks at D7X Tech have an email. And if you have a copy of your receipt, which they sent to you an email, you should be able to simply respond to that receipt or email the folks directly. I'm sure you can find the email address on their website and explain the situation. But you know, I'd understand if you spent $500 or something, but this is a very inexpensive tool, and you know, the amount of time it takes to look up something like that is worth more than what the tool costs. But that, again, that's just not my decision to make. I don't run D7X Tech, and I don't know the policies or procedures involved in that, and I don't know if they've handled any requests like that before. I have no idea. But I would suggest you go to the people you gave the money to and ask them. So yeah, some questions I don't know the answer to, but I can at least point you in the right direction. JV says, awesome video, appreciate your advice. Well, thanks, JV. Appreciate you being here. Scott wants to know if I have any suggestion on a horizontal PC case. No, because you're not telling me what you want to build or what you want to use it for, what your budget is, and I wouldn't do that for free because it requires research, time, investment of time rather, to offer up multiple options. Somebody like Catherine Anna Hauserman might be willing to investigate answers to all those questions as well as others in order to make a recommendation that fits what it is you're picturing in your head, because I have no idea what the heck you want, what your budget is, or what you're trying to put in it. So therefore, no, I have no suggestion. We've built horizontal cases here before, including the pan silver case that Mitch and I did a few months ago, but it's big, it's really big, and it's really for a home theater PC, but there's lots and lots of horizontal cases to choose from. Okay, so with the case, easy enough to get the motherboard and processor out, as you just witnessed. Let me bring over the old motherboard, which is already prepped with the liquid cooler, water pump attached. It's already got the RAM in it. It's already got a solid state drive. We just need a case to put it in, and I've been struggling to find a case large enough. Dom Parada with a $9.99 contribution says, hey, Carrie and chat, my first live stream in a couple of weeks. Glad to see you all. Take care, my friends. Good to see you, Dom. Thanks, as always, for supporting the channel. Okay, Let me grab the motherboard and the liquid cooler. This is a two-hand job because everything's attached. And as you can see, it's quite heavy being all loaded up like this. What I'm hopeful about is I'm hopeful that this 280 millimeter radiator we've got here will fit at the top of the case. And if we look, you can see the motherboard standoffs are quite a distance from the top of the case. On a lot of cases that promote that they can have a liquid cooler up there, if you look at where the motherboard standoffs are, oftentimes the lid, the top of the case, is less than an inch away. And what that means is that the whole radiator and fans are going to overlap the entire top of the motherboard. They could hit the I/O shield on this board, they could hit the heatsink, they could even hit the RAM and prevent the radiator from being installed because they have it overlapping, and they don't specify that when they promote the case. I can't imagine why they would leave that information out. You'd think that would be really important information to have. So when I was looking around here to see what cases I had that can have a liquid cooler put at the top of them, like I can tell you right now, a Corsair 200R ain't gonna happen. You could throw maybe a 140 cooler on the back of a 200R, but not up across the top and certainly not across the front. So I am hopeful that this case will do it for us. This is the most promising case. And I also think the case is better aligned given its unique looks for a system of this caliber. This is an expensive motherboard. It's an expensive processor. We've got RGB RAM, which is more expensive than non-RGB RAM, and we've got 4 banks of it, so it's completely filled. And as I mentioned, we've got that chipset fan, which I will in the future do a video on replacing once I get the replacement in, assuming I got the right replacement. We'll see when it arrives. But we'd never have to do this on an Intel system because Intel systems don't use these. Not unless they're 15 or more years old anyway. So I'm just trying to think what I want to do first. Obviously, I've got to get the board installed before I can put the radiator in. So I think I'll go ahead and take this magnetic cover off so we have access to the top of the case where the radiator is going to go. And I like these cutouts. If you look at the Be Quiet cases and some of the other cases, they have gaps between where the cutouts are, and it forces the alignment of the cooler, and it limits how much you can move it. With the cutouts being so close together, you can pretty much place the cooler anywhere your heart desires. So who knows, maybe Antec's coming back from the dead and improving their cases. They used to be a great case manufacturer, and then they just kind of went for budget stuff, and the budget stuff was junk, just absolute junk. I got so turned off with Antec, I didn't want to use them ever again. But it looks like maybe they found their way back. Let's find out what this experience is like. It might be regretful, or might just make my day. We've got a couple of RGB fans. Oh no, this one in the back, is that RGB? The one in the back is not RGB, but the one up in the front is. We've got RGB up in the front here, and then for some stupid reason, Antec has this, looks like a G logo on the front of the case, and they do this on their cases now. This one is actually a button. But this requires power from the power supply, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. They should be plugging this into one of the LED headers for power on the motherboard or even the hard drive, reducing the amount of cabling required. But I've been seeing this on a number of Antec cases, and all this does is glow red. It's completely pointless. It doesn't convey any information, and it's on top where you're less likely to see it. And it requires its own SATA power connection to the power supply just to light up the LED. It is absolutely the dumbest thing I have ever seen regarding LEDs on buttons. Completely pointless. You know, when you've got a reset switch, if this is our power switch, then there's no reason we can't just run off the power LED, right? Because it's only going to come on when the machine's on, when the power supply is running. So it's just stupid. But if that's my only complaint, we're doing good. All right, so just be aware of that. That's a very common thing Antec is doing now, and I hope they stop that as quickly as possible. All right, let's bring down the case. I do have to work with the case laying down because of the components being attached like this. There's no way I can do it vertically. And what I'm going to do is just very carefully pick up the board here, and we will set it down. And I need to just find a place to rest this heavy radiator and fans. Once I get the board aligned, I can secure it, and then I can move forward. However, this is a good time to dry fit it just to see if it's going to be okay as far as the fitment goes. So let me see if I can get that in there. Oh, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so this fits perfectly. There's no overlapping of the radiator or fans over the motherboard. Phew. Never thought it would be this difficult. You know, just finding a part that it'll fit, or a case that'll fit properly. I don't know what manufacturers are thinking. There can't be much cost savings by reducing the height of the case by an inch. It's, you know, you're spending $100 or more on a case. If it's going to cost an extra $5 or $10 to get it an inch taller, what a lifesaver. You're going to make that up in labor time and in frustration every single time you've got to work on it. It's not like you're just going to work on it once. You'll probably be opening it up again, especially if there's a liquid cooler, to replace the cooler when it fails in about 3 or 4 years. Gaming 44 contributes $9.99. He says, I have the Corsair Crystal 570X RGB mid-tower case in white. I absolutely love it for my build, and I recommend this computer case to everyone. Okay, Corsair makes good cases. I don't know how well the cooler would fit in it, but I don't know if we've worked on one of those here in the past or not. Catherine says I should just get the 5000 Air or the 7000 Air. That would fit. Those would cost a lot of money for me to ship. So if it was my own personal computer, I understand what you're saying. But the 5000 and the 7000 are very large and heavy cases. And the cost to ship a computer in that case, because the size of the box I have to ship in is bigger. When you're shipping something, it's not just about the weight, and it's not just about the distance of the shipping, but it's about the size of the box and how much space it's going to take up on the truck. So if a case is larger by 1 inch, it can double my cost of shipping. Believe it or not, 1 inch bigger, because the case is going to be 1 inch bigger all the way across the length of the box, can double, nearly double what it would cost to ship. As a result, you'll see I avoid the large cases unless I'm building for somebody locally or it's for myself. When I did the Big Beast build, Doug Betts came out from, where's he from, Nevada? No, he's in Fresno, California. He drove out to pick it up because I told him I wasn't going to ship it. It was going to cost hundreds of dollars to ship, and it likely could be broken in shipping. So I would either have to drive it to him or he would have to come out and pick it up. And he came out and picked it up, and it took 2 of us to get that loaded into his car. How he got it out of his car, I have no idea, but he's using it on his channel now. And if you're not familiar with Doug Betts, he's got a YouTube channel very similar to mine. He's been working in the field for about 30 years as a field service technician. And he started a YouTube channel where he invites people to join him via Zoom sessions and share his experience and help troubleshoot rather, people's computer problems live. He's usually live on Saturdays, I think, here on YouTube. And usually our videos don't overlap. So if you enjoy my content, I think you'll enjoy his, and you should definitely check it out. And that's Live Windows Training with Doug Betts. He's a great guy. He knows his stuff, and he tends to be quite a bit more patient than I am. So for people just learning who, you know, have a lot of basic questions and stuff, he's certainly more, he'll spend more time delving into subject matter like that. Whereas I've discussed it ad nauseum, and I'm just want to help as many people as quickly as possible. So I tend to provide answers very short and very quick so I can cover a multitude of topics But in any event, he makes great content, and he's got the big beast build. You'll see it behind him in his broadcast. Hey, there's Marvin Jameson joining us. This is Marvin's old board we're working with here. And let's take a look, and let me see that all my standoffs are lined up correctly. I'm assuming they're the same from one board to the other because they're both about the same size board. But I still need to double check and ensure that nothing is in a different position. It looks perfect. I took out 9 screws, and I have 9 holes on the board with 9 standoffs behind them. So we're off to a good start, ladies and gentlemen. This is looking very, very promising. So with the right case, having the design correct, it is easy work, all right? All those other cases I was trying to get this board and cooler to fit in, I was working way harder than I needed to, and that was because I believed the manufacturers when they said, oh yeah, you can put a 280 millimeter cooler in here. You know, Be Quiet not only sent me the case, they sent me the cooler, and yet they won't fit together. So how crazy is that? Or rather, I could have made it fit together, but I would have had to overlap the parts, which just, in my opinion, is the wrong way to do it. That's suggesting the case really wasn't designed for the cooler. Or it's suggesting your time has no value and that you should have to work much harder to do any repairs and upgrades on that system as long as you own it. So if I put just a tower air cooler in that Be Quiet case, it'll be fine. I won't have the nastiness that I feel about it. But they're the ones who told me it would fit a cooler. And technically they didn't lie, but there was a caveat that they didn't tell me that I found out live on camera, which, you know, I wasn't too happy about. Doesn't make me look good. It's not my fault. I'm too trusting. Oops. The last one is always the tough one. I should have started with this one. You should always start with the last one. Screwdriver keeps slipping off the motherboard. There we go. All right. Now, I do notice that if we put the radiator in, oh, this is going to be awesome. I was going to say the radiator often will block the 12-volt CPU power in the upper left of the motherboard. But it looks like we can push this radiator all the way towards the front of the case, leaving a fairly large gap between the end of the radiator and the end of the case. So I can still get my hands in there to put that CPU power connector on. If I need to replace a power supply in the future, I don't necessarily have to take the whole radiator out. Oh, thank you. Okay. I've got the hardware for the radiator somewhere over here. I'm sure I put it away. Where did I put it? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I should have the radiator screws here somewhere. I don't know what I did with them. I usually keep this stuff together in what I call organized piles. And I've got all of the Be Quiet documentation here for the liquid cooler, for the case, and for the power supply they sent, including the parts we didn't use. But where did I put the screws? Oh, I think this is them. They were over with the motherboard, and I put them in, see how organized I am? I put them in a little plastic bag. Good for me. All right, we bring this case around this way. You can see I can align this radiator all the way to the front or all the way to the back and anywhere in between because of how generous they are with these cutouts. I could also install a smaller radiator. That's why there's 2 sets of cutouts. This is a fairly wide radiator at 280 millimeters. And this will test a case capacity claims. You don't want to tighten these down all the way because we still want to be able to slide the radiator around. But if I just get a couple of screws started here, okay, you know what, let's just do all the corners. Because I want to pick this case up and show you what it looks like on the inside and why I'm so happy we finally have a case that fits. And I didn't have to order it. I already had it in inventory. Because let me tell you something. I got around 40 or 50 cases here. And the last thing I want to do is order another case. So let's lift this up and take a look on the inside. Let's see what that looks like. All right. This is much more like it should be. Check this out. I will have to run the case fan power out the back, and it's a bit of a tight fit, so you can see how much I can slide this back and forth on those selected grooves I picked. But look at how much space I've got to get onto that motherboard power connector or CPU power connector right there. I can totally reach in there because I haven't put the power supply in yet. And then if I want to move this back, at least it doesn't require removal. Or I can just secure it completely to the front. I don't see any reason not to. And I'm not quite sure what's going on with our liquid pipes here, but they seem a little twisted for some reason. I don't know if I twisted them by mistake, but I might just want to double check before I secure the radiator in place. What I would do is take the radiator back out, run these cables back behind it, just because it'll be easier, and then make sure that I haven't twisted this, because this, see this twist? I don't like this one bit, so I think I must have twisted it. But that's why I only put 2 screws in, so I can correct that very, very easily. Then we full access to everything we need down here. I do see we've got some of the motherboard, or rather the front power connectors got caught up behind the board there, but they didn't get pinched in there, so they just easily just slid right back out of there. That almost got me in trouble. And then we have a rear case fan, and that sometimes on some motherboards will connect up here, but on this motherboard, not something we have to worry about. But yeah, we found one. We found a case that properly fits a liquid cooler. Amazing. And you know what? That case wasn't that expensive, and it's a pretty unique looking case. Have you ever met anybody with a computer case that looks like this one? I've never seen one like it before. So if you want some exclusivity, you want something different that not everybody else has, seems like a pretty nice case. Got the power supply shroud there. It is riveted in. That power supply shroud will not come out. And you've got the hard drive cage down below, as typical in this kind of case design. If you want to put a couple of 3.5-inch mechanicals in there, you can. And you have your traditional 2.5-inch drive bays behind the motherboard tray. Again, it's a very common design from numerous case manufacturers. No originality there, but no surprises either. You know, it's sort of standard practice. For me and the computers I build, I don't use mechanical drives anymore. I've long since moved away from them due to the fact that they're so unreliable, they're noisy, and they're slow. Now it's all solid-state drives only, and if customers want to add their own mechanicals, well, they certainly have that option too in these cases. On some of the cases you've seen, the hard drive cage has to come out to make room for the cooler or to make room for the power supply cables, and in this design from Antec, looks like there's plenty of room back there, so at least they did it right, or at least they did it thoughtfully. Does anybody have any questions for me? We're going to probably wrap this one up a little early. I've got my answer, which is, so glad that's behind me. And I do have to add a graphics card to this build because it is an AMD 3900X. There's no integrated graphics on it. So I'm going to put a 750 watt power supply in it. I'm going to straighten out the kinks or the twists in the radiator hose. and then I'll wire it up. It's already got Windows installed and configured. It's ready to go. It's all the hard part's over with now, and all the worry and concern is over with. Now it's just doing the work. So I don't see any reason to continue that on a live video. And what I can do is when it's all done and cable managed, I'll show it to you guys, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with it. I really don't know what I'm going to do with this beast of a computer. The fact that it's got a GPU in it adds about $500 to its value, unfortunately. But graphics cards are available, and the prices are coming down. And I think, you know, Intel should be having their GPU offering available this summer. And I think that's going to drive prices down even further. So I suspect, you know, as long as there's not another unexpected pandemic or event occurring around the world with Russia or anything else, if things keep moving in this direction, we should start seeing much better pricing, although we're already at much better pricing, but it still might get better yet. So if you're in the market for a GPU, I'd say wait another couple months. But if you're worried about how much time you've got left on Earth, then it might be worth paying a little bit more since you'll never get the time back. That's a decision you're going to have to make. Don Allen with a $10 contribution says, this is for anything you need. Oh, that's very kind of you, Don. Thank you. Fernando says, donate the PC to a nurse or doctor as a gift for their service. Well, nurses and doctors make more money than I do. These aren't exactly charitable organizations when it comes to health, especially not in the United States. I would much prefer that somebody that's a member of our community that would benefit from it would get it, or we sell it so that we can use the money on the channel to create more content. But if somebody's making more money than I am certainly going to be reluctant to quote-unquote help them. It doesn't really make sense when there's so many people in need in the world. And while doctors and nurses are, certainly we owe our thanks to them, they are paid for their services quite well. Roger Mack with a $10 contribution says, Kerry, I always enjoy your programs. Here's a contribution for your Gatorade. Hey, thank you, Roger. I appreciate that. Fernando says, entry-level nurses don't make a lot. My niece makes $28,000 a year. Well, $28,000 a year is about $2,500 a month. That works out to, what about $700 a week or over $100 a day? I got to say that's pretty good money, especially when you're looking at YouTube money. Right? If you understood what YouTube paid me, I'd love to make $28K. But thankfully, we've got sponsors and contributors like you guys that can help. And of course, we have our disabled American veterans and American veterans in general, such as Marvin, where this motherboard came from. And of course, Clinton, whose laptop we just worked on, and numerous others, such as the giveaways that we just shipped out yesterday to 2 more of our veterans who have volunteered their service to protect our country. And so for them, there's just not enough we can do for them to show our appreciation and our thanks. Dave Linovitz says, I love Kerry's build. He puts a lot of pride into it. I know firsthand. Kudos. Thank you, Dave. I hope your new computer, I hope you've had some time to familiarize yourself with it, and I hope you're impressed with it. CCTV user says, I live in the UK and I love disabled American vets getting our communities free PCs. Yeah, thank you. And Marvin says he's going to take off. All right, Marvin, well, I'm glad you stopped in, and there'll be a follow-up once I get everything wired up. But it's all boilerplate from this point on. It's all very standard now. So that should be cake. Just finding the right case for it. Boy, I'll tell you, what a nightmare. It's the 3rd time now I put this in a case. I hope it's the last time. And just looking to see if there's any final questions for me here in the chat. I'd be happy to address them before we wrap it up. I'll give it about 15 minutes. That'll be 4 o'clock Phoenix time, and that'll mean we've been live we will have been live for about 2 hours. I think that's a good amount of live streaming for today, given that we just did a video yesterday. And then I don't know if I'll have time tomorrow. I certainly have a lot of content. But if so, I'll be live again tomorrow. Wednesdays are usually a day that I use to run errands, and I have a bunch of errands to run tomorrow. And I cannot do both at the same time, and I am my only employee, so whatever I don't do doesn't get done. That being said, if you do have any questions for me while we're live right now, be happy to address them. If you want to email a support question, you can do so using my email address, which I will put up on the screen. Please do not abuse this email address. It is not to engage in casual conversation. This email address is to be used for business inquiries, or if you have a technical support question that you would like me to address on a future live video. Most people who are sending an email to this address with technical support questions should look for the reply in a future upcoming video. If you want to engage in a business transaction regarding organizing a repair or upgrade or sale of a new computer from me, certainly this is the way to reach me. That has to be only within the United States for the reasons I've already stated. And if you have a very basic question that requires a very quick answer where I can point you to a video or a link, then I'll just quickly respond with that very short answer, because I am inundated with messages and emails every single day, 24 hours a day, nonstop. But I will do my best if you have something quick and simple that I can answer. That is how you can reach me. People who abuse it will be blocked, and I simply will never see their message. So have at it. In the meantime, let me go back to the chat and address any questions you might have for me right now. And we'll put this back to full screen. And then we'll wrap it up. Lucas Dury with a $5 contribution says there's for more Gatorade when you can find it. I'm hoping to find some more today after the broadcast. I'm going to run over to the market and see if they've got any. Fernando Prieto with a $5 contribution says he's just pitching in and buy a Coke on me. Well, thank you, Fernando. Appreciate that and your participation in the chat today. $10 from Steve H says, hey, Carrie, have you tried Coke Zero? I've not tried Coke Zero because every diet or sugar-free Coke or drink I've ever had tastes disgusting, and I'd rather drink water. Coke just released online only something called Coke Pixel Zero Sugar. It's a gimmick. I've ordered it. I'll probably get it tomorrow. It's like $10 a can with shipping. But, you know, Dr. Pepper's got their new dark berry flavored Dr. Pepper. They also have that in zero sugar. Pepsi's got Pepsi Nitro. I tried it. It's nasty. The best way I would describe it is if you like flat Pepsi. You know, if you get one of those slushies that has no carbonation, nitro is not CO2. Nitrous is a different gas. So what it does is it makes the Pepsi smooth and creamy, which is just kind of like leaving a Pepsi in the refrigerator for 24 hours uncovered, and then when you go to drink it again, it's flat. It is one of the most disgusting things I've ever tried. You know, I don't care for Pepsi, but if I go to a restaurant and I want to order a Coke and they say, well, we have Pepsi, is that okay? It's fine. So I thought maybe the Nitro Pepsi would have, what do I know about nitrous? I don't. So I thought maybe it would be like an ultra carbonated, but the bubbles are really super fine. No, it's no carbonation at all. Nothing. It is completely flat, and it just tastes like a slushie. Gross. And then what was the fourth one? There were four of them. There's the Coke Pixel, the Dark Berry Dr. Pepper, the Pepsi Nitro, which also has a vanilla flavor, which I don't like any of the flavored colas. And there's a fourth one that just came out. Another limited, Coke Starlight. Also available in zero sugar. it's just gross. And they say it's for a limited edition. And I was thinking I should get a can of each just to taste test them here. But I'm going to tell you right now, I think they're all disgusting, with Pepsi Nitro being the absolute worst. But I've heard some nightmares about this Coke Pixel. So it might be the new winner. We'll find out when it arrives. You can Google Coke Pixel if you want to find where you can buy it. It's only available online and only for about a week, and then it's done. Barry Klein with $10 says, I missed your live stream yesterday. I'm glad to catch you live, both figuratively and literally today. He says, I like that case. That's kind of a cool looking case. Looks easy to work on too, wide open. Bill Ottinger with a $1 contribution. Thank you for supporting the channel, Bill and Barry. And Marty with a $10 contribution said he loves the case too. Danny Naranjo says, you know what goes good with Gatorade and Ice Cold Classic Coke? He contributes $5. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Marty. One Cave Per Vipers sent $25 via PayPal. You know what? I haven't checked my phone the whole stream, so if anybody sends anything via PayPal or Amazon gift cards, it's not usually something I see until after the show, unless you guys remind me to check it. But yeah, $25 did come in from John. I appreciate that. And $10 came in from the man, Michael Dane. Thank you, Michael Dane. He's the man. I appreciate all the support from you guys. And just trying to look, see if I've missed any questions. Captain Blinsky says notifications for the live streams are not showing up on my Android tablet, which is an S7. Sometimes you need to uninstall the YouTube app and reinstall it again, then check the settings in the settings section of your phone for the YouTube app and make sure you're giving it permission to allow notifications. And also check the settings when you log into YouTube on another device, and just make sure that you've got the notification options set correctly in the YouTube settings. You can also search YouTube for enabling notifications and look at the year the video was published. If the video is over a year old, it probably no longer applies. So, pay attention to the date the videos are published and find a more recent video about where you can look for the notifications. Sean wants to know if I pour the Pepsi Nitro like it shows on the can. Yeah, you're not really supposed to drink the Pepsi Nitro out of the can, and you're not supposed to pour it with a tilted glass. You keep the glass upright and you dump the can completely upside down and let it pour out to create a giant foamy head. It's flat. The Pepsi is completely flat. And it's got a little nitro, like in a can of Guinness beer, it's got a little widget, they call it, that floats around in the can. With Pepsi Nitro, it looks like an upside down coffee K-cup that's like glued to the bottom of the can, that when you open the can, it releases the nitro. Also, the can is about this big. It's much larger than a standard can of Pepsi, and it all went down the sink because it was just gross. Yeah, you don't shake up the can or anything like that. You just open it and then flip the can completely upside down and do what they call a hard pour into the glass. And that's going to give you your foamiest head on it. And the foam is great, but it just tastes like a slushy. Scott Maxfield says, I did not like the Coke Starlight. I've never met anybody who does. Tall glass of nitroglycerin? No, tall glass of nitrous oxide or nitrogen. Different thing, different nitro. Okay, about 5 minutes here. I don't see any other questions. Bob R says, can you explain XMP? There's already a video. If you type in the words Kerry Holzman space XMP into YouTube search, you'll find my quick tips video that explains XMP. and it's much more thought out versus just asking me off the cuff. Jason Mirabel says, Carrie, just saying a quick hello. You know, what you said about Costco is real. They do move their stuff around. I think Costco is so disrespectful to their customers when they do that. They don't care about the value of your time. They want you to get lost in the store looking for something so that you might happen across something that you weren't planning on buying. It's very disrespectful to the value of their customers' time. Fernando asks, a Western Digital Blue hard disk drive 4 terabyte is $65. Is this not interesting to you, even for backup? No, it isn't. I have no interest in mechanical hard drives. They perform too slowly. It's really, I mean, are you buying it for me? Or are you buying it for you? Because if you're buying it for you, who cares what I think? But if you're buying it for me, save your money. I don't want it. I would have absolutely zero use for that. I would probably just give it away to somebody. I can copy 4 terabytes of data 5 times faster on a more reliable solid state drive. So your time is obviously not worth much to you if you want to spend less for that level of storage. You have to understand that moving 4 terabytes or 4,000 gigabytes of data is going to take a while. And if you don't mind if it takes 4 to 5 times longer, you and I have very different perspectives, because I'm paid by the hour and customers aren't going to pay me to stand around and twiddle my thumbs waiting for data to copy. I also don't like that if the drive is bumped or harmed while it's reading or writing, it will likely damage the platters beyond repair. So where you see value is your perspective, and where I see value is mine, but I'm in business to earn a profit, and time is money. Barry Ross contributes $5, says, hey, Carrie Holzmans, and blessing all. Thank you, Barry. Just trying to look through here. Fernando says, I guess I'm just a cheapo. I don't want to buy a large solid state drive. You know, the 4 terabyte drives have come down significantly. For a SATA drive, I'm seeing them a little over $300 now. They'll last longer. They run 4 to 5 times faster. They're more reliable. They use less power. I can always make more money, but I don't know how to make more time. But not everybody sees life that way. But if you ever figure out a way to make more time, you let me know. If you're somebody who has an abundance of time, I'm jealous. These things are usually related. Those who don't have much time usually have more money. And those who have a lot of time usually don't have much money. So these things are generalizations that I've found to be true in my life and kind of self-created, right? So if you're always wanting to buy the cheapest thing, then it's always going to be a larger investment of time, and that may steal your time away from other opportunities that you could earn more money, but you're not seeing them because you're not looking, because you're busy spending your time on something else that requires it in order to save money. So it's, in many cases, in my opinion, self-created. Not always, not always. But I do see individuals that sort of manifest this limitation and have the power and the means with which to change that. But as long as they keep exercising the same habits for the same reasoning and repeating the same patterns, they don't grow and move forward. But that may be what they want, right? It's just not what I want. The Greek contributes $10 and says, it was a bluesy day till I saw you invited us all here. Thank you for cheering me up. Right on. Well, thank you. I appreciate you, man. That's cool. I get a lot of grief from strangers on the internet. So it's nice when I get compliments, kindness, and support. It really means a lot to me. Thank you. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's broadcast. Do remember, we've got that 40% off going on with Acronis until May 15th. I hope you take advantage of the deal. It's a really good deal. If you already are subscribed to Acronis, you can use this to extend your subscription another 12 months, taking advantage of the savings. If you've never used a password manager before, I strongly encourage you to try out RoboForm. It's always 30% off with us for our viewers. And if you need a Windows 10 or 11 license, or an Office 2016, Office 2019, or Office 2021 license, it's a great deal over at CDK Deals. Be sure to use the coupon code to get the discount. You can get Windows 10 Pro for $15.90 guaranteed to work. Just be sure if you have any problem, you look for help within 30 days of your purchase, and you'll get that help. And if you don't, you let me know, and I will make sure it's right. And that's whether it's RoboForm, Acronis, or any of our sponsors. I stand behind them 100%. There is no risk. And Windows 10 and Office, you can download and install, and they go into a trial mode, and you can decide if you want to buy them. And if you want to buy them, then you can go buy the key. Acronis, you can download Acronis, 30 days free trial to decide if you want to buy it. RoboForm also has a free trial, so you can check these things out before you put your money in. Nothing requires a credit card ahead of time. You know a company truly believes in their product if they're not saying, hey, give us your credit card first and then we'll give you the free trial. None of that here, folks. This is all upstanding products and companies that highly value customer service, and in the case of RoboForm and Acronis, want to sell you the best product possible, meaning that you're going to get updates to it regularly for security and feature enhancement throughout your subscription period. And that's important on the internet today, where there's so many bad actors looking to steal from you. When you see updates available to Acronis, or you see updates to RoboForm, and for that matter, when you see updates to Windows 10 and Office, I highly encourage you to install those updates as soon as possible. That being said, thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you to everybody who's contributed. Sherlock had just contributed $5 and says, enjoying your videos. Thank you, Sherlock. Yes, these videos are mostly made possible through the contributions of viewers like you, and I really appreciate the support. It enables me to buy this stuff that you see and to help others in need. So thank you for making it possible for me to do this more often and to add to the variety of content that I can offer. So Sherlock, the Greek, Barry Russ, and Bill Ottinger, Barry Klein, and Madi Yoel. Thank you, of course, to Peter Laycock and to Kelly Stewart, as well as Danny Naranjo, Steve H., Lucas Dury. Thank you for your multiple contributions today. Fernando Prieto, not only for your contributions, but for your participation in the chat. Roger Mack, Don Allen, Gaming 44, and Dom Parada. Bob R., as well as Abdul Azim Patel, Sinister 21, Gunnar Glenn, Copycat, Robert Katnia, watching us all the way from Slovenia, Gio Johnson, and Matt Power. Thanks you guys so much for tuning in, for being a part of this amazing community that we've created here on the internet, where people are friendly and supportive to each other. And that means the world to me that, we have a place where like-minded individuals can go free from bullying. So thank you so much for helping create this very special place. And I'll look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.